Hello everyone, and in this video we'll create some rocks on those dunes. One thing I want to mention before we move on to creating the shader, I want to change some parameters just to optimize our scene and to make it faster in case it is getting slower. So let's go to our render settings, and right here you will have an option inside of subdivision which is called dicing camera. Blender right now is kind of calculating everything from this view to the last point of this plane. So it is calculating everything. So we might want to add a dicing camera. So Blender will do all of its job from this angle that we're looking at. So let's go to dicing camera and basically pick our camera, the camera we're using to capture the scene with. So this will make everything faster. And another thing, there is this option which is off-screen scale, which is the amount of how much Blender is doing subdivisions inside or actually outside this frame. We probably won't need a lot of details right here on those dark areas because they're not actually in the field of view. So this value work kind of inverted. So if you drop this value down, you will be adding more details. And if you bring this value up, you will remove a lot of details. So we need to remove a lot of details. So let's just change it to something like 10. So now we're ready to tackle the rock shader. So we have right here our node network that we worked on it in the last video. Let's select those two nodes, which I actually think that I kept moving them away the whole course. To do this, I guess you will probably know what we're gonna use. Another Voronoi texture. Shift A, and let's look for Voronoi. Let's add a mapping node to this by hitting Ctrl T, and let's change the texture coordinating settings from generated to UV. Control Shift and click on it to see it. And that's way far from what we want. To fix this issue, let's change the scale from 5 to 40. And let's add another noise texture. Let's search for noise just to add more variety to this. And I think I don't need an individual mapping node for this. I will just make the Voronoi texture and noise texture basically just both of them use the same mapping network. And let's just first of all mix them. Shift A, and I will add, for example, let's add a math node after the Voronoi texture just to control it. And let's go Shift A and add another math node and put it right here. And I will basically multiply this setup, which is this one, with this setup right here, which is the noise texture. A lot of you right now might ask, why are you using a math node? Why you didn't use our typical mix node? We're taking black and white data from the Voronoi texture. Black 0, white 1. And we're taking black and white data from the noise texture. It will make more sense if we use mathematical operations to mix them rather than basically our typical mix RGB node. So that's why I'm using a math node. I will plug this value to the value 1, and I will take this factor right here. Before I move on, I will change this from add to multiply, and maybe let's try drop it by a half, which is 0.25. And I feel like the noise texture needs to be a little bit like more contrasty. To do such thing, let's go Shift Add, and let's look for color ramp, the almighty color ramp. And I will basically just try to create more contrast. I will click Ctrl Shift and click on the color ramp to see the noise texture. And when I see right now, I feel like it is a little bit too big. So let's just make it 40 also. And for the roughness, I will bring it up to 1, and maybe let's add more detail, something like 5, and let's crunch the contrast of this picture, something like this. Maybe let's crunch it even a little bit more, and those basically white parts will be the spots where the rocks will be sitting. And what I want to do right now is basically to mix this setup with the rest of the nodes. And one thing I just noticed is that the operation, I want to change it to multiply. And one important thing when you're using a multiply to combine two different, let's say, nodes or shaders, make sure to use clamp. So you don't go over 1 and you don't go below 0. I'm gonna add another mix node, search mix, and put it right here. The main reason I'm adding this is to combine all of those with the rest of the network, and just take this value and plug it into color 2. That's looking really nice. For the blending mode right here, I will change it from mix. Let's just change it to screen. We need to see the effect. So let's just get back to our principal BSDF, Control Shift and click on it. The effect is still a little bit too subtle, I feel. So let's bring this value up. Maybe let's just put it 0.7. There is not much rocks distributed, so I might want to change the location right here. Basically, just change the location of the map so that maybe we can get some more details. Let's just try 5. Yeah, we will have a little bit of rock that is going right here. Maybe change it to 10. It disappeared, but we have some rocks going right here. All right, I'm not gonna bother a lot with this shader. Later on, I might just change the contrast and all of those stuff, and I will add more rocks. So I won't waste a lot of time on this part. Let's just select all of this network, Control J, hit F2, and call it to rocks. And ladies and gentlemen, the only part that we still didn't do is to shade our desert. And in the next video, that's what we will be doing. See you in the next video.